Hello everybody, Big Planes here. Now before I dive too deep in this video, I would like to give a shout out to my patrons over on Patreon. So thank you to everybody over on Patreon who helps to support the channel. You guys are one of the main reasons why I'm actually able to build these planes in the first place. So I will leave a link in the description below if that's something that you want to go do. So this video is about flying wings. I know it's a little bit different from what I normally do, but I thought I would make a video on the HO-229, which has been sitting on my shelf for quite a while now, and I am finally getting around to making a video on it. So, I'm going to talk about the history of these two models first. The one on the right is the Northrop M9, and the one on the left is the Horton HO-229. And these are both flying wings from the 1940s. The N9 is from the early 40s, I believe. And the HO-229 was late World War II era. So I'm going to talk about the N9 first. I've already done a video on this one, so I'm not going to go too in-depth here. But the N9 was a 1/3 scale mock-up of the flying wing concept for the XB-35 bomber, which I'm actually currently building. So that's what's going on with the N9. It is a pusher configuration with propellers, so it has the propellers on the back. And yeah, this one I really liked it because of the color scheme. And yeah, I actually do like this one quite a bit. It's very smooth and yeah, so this video though really isn't about the N9, it's about the HO-229. And this one was, I'm just going to say challenging. It's already kind of hard to photograph in this light because of its dark color, but the HO-229 was developed towards the end of World War II by the Horton brothers to meet the 3000 specifications, 1,000 kilometers of range, 1,000 kilos of bombs, and of course 1,000 kilometers per hour. This one was close to those requirements, and it was one of the very first flying wing models to ever take to the air. And this one used especially the advanced technology of jet engines, which this one did not use. So that made this really cool, especially. And I tried to get the shape as close as I could on this model. And obviously, not everything's perfect, but it's fairly close. I especially wanted to get that iconic jet engine intake. So I'm going to see if I can get a better angle for you. There you go. I wanted to get that iconic jet engine intake, and I actually think it worked out pretty well, actually, considering the scale that we're building at. Obviously, you can't fit a minifigure inside of the cockpit. That's a little small, but you can see that, yeah, I did get that to work. Now, one of the cool things about this model is that it sits at a tilt, so you can see that when I set it back like this, it tilts back on its landing gear quite a bit like that. So it has that really awkward giant front wheel and then those two smaller wheels in the back, whereas this one just sort of sits on its landing gear like that. But speaking of said landing gear, I'm going to show you how it works. So this is a fairly strong model. You can see I can play with it and all of that stuff. It's swooshable, if you will. And you can see that the landing gear on the bottom is fairly simple. You can see that it just turns like this and then comes in like this. And then the front one is fairly simple as well. It's a little, just bend it right in like this, like that. Push it all the way in. And that's how that works. I'm not going to retract the other wheel because I don't see a point in doing so. Though you can see that the bottom is now nice and flush. Trying to demonstrate this to you. You can see the bottom is now nice and flush. And you can fly it around and display it and do all sorts of cool things. So yeah, that's how the HO-229 retracts. This one's a bit more of a hassle to retract all its gear, though it does retract. And yeah, the landing gear retracting was a huge feature on this one that I had to have, considering there wasn't, well, much else going on with it. And yeah, so the HO-229 was one of the first generation stealth fighters. Even though that was not the initial intent when building this, they did not intend to build it in a stealthy manner. Oh, there goes a wheel. Yeah, sometimes this comes off a little prematurely, but no, the HO-229 was not intended to be built as a stealth aircraft like the B-2, because obviously this thing looks a lot like a B-2, right? No, this was originally developed because the flying wing is aerodynamically superior, if you will, but this thing did actually have really good stealth properties that wouldn't really be realized until the B-2 later in the 80s. So yeah, they were really ahead of their time in terms of the stealthiness of it. Now, obviously, both of these planes didn't really see any action until, like I said, the B-2 did in the 80s. The primary reason for the N9 not seeing much further development. I mean, it was developed into the XB35 and then the YB49. However, without computers to stabilize it, it did not take off, kind of literally. So it kind of sat dormant until computers were able to fly the aircraft and stabilize it. Whereas the HO-229 just did not have enough time to develop towards the end of World War II. There just wasn't enough time. This was one of those Wunderwaffens that was created during the end of the war, I guess, and it just didn't have enough time. It was at least the ME-262 made it to the front lines, even though not in large numbers. This one never really did. However, it was a really cool plane, and that's why I wanted to build it. So that's just a quick overview of these two aircraft. I am not going to do a tutorial for them because that's just a lot of work, I'm sorry. But if you have any questions, then leave them in the comments section below. Hopefully I didn't butcher too much of the pronunciation in this video, although I probably did. So yeah, that's really it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and I will have more videos coming very shortly, very soon here, including some tutorials. So that's it for this video, and bye for now.